last week, what I talked about primarily was the way that the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, how it actually speaks to us in a different way than does the literal translations of the scriptures. And what I began to look at was the word Adam, how it spells and how it actually shows us that the spiritual entity that we call man, when the creation took place, it also was the physical entity being created. The possibility for it was there present, and that is reflected in the way the name Adam is spelled. And in the Hebrew, it's Aleph Dalet Mem. And can you show you that?
Yeah, I'm just looking.
Oh, okay. Aleph Dalet Mem. And the reason when a word begins with a letter, it means that that first letter dominates the rest of the letters. And one of the roots for Dalet is Delet, which is also door. So when you look at Dalet Mem without the Aleph, it spells blood. So we know that blood is a natural portion of man, and when we talk about blood, we're actually talking about physicality. Now, something dawned on me since then, and that is this. If it is Aleph, and maybe I need to be writing this, maybe you can see it, but I don't know. If it's Aleph Dalet Mem, if it's Aleph Dalet Mem, Aleph is the holy presence, and Dalet Mem is blood. Okay, if the Aleph dominates, right, because it is the first letter. So if this Dalet, one of the meanings of it is a door or opening or a gate. So that means that Dalet has dominance over Mem when it's blood. When you attach it to Aleph, then what dominates the blood is the holy presence. Now, what's that saying is that regardless of who you are or what you believe, the life is in the blood. So what life is this talking about that's in the blood? It would have to be the life of the holy presence. You see what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Any question? Any question?
And what's Mem? I forget.
Mem is...
Dalet stands for door.
Yeah, Mem is water.
Water.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
waters,
Yeah.
peoples, nations, languages, and tongues.
Waters, people, nations. Okay, language and tongue.
Okay.
Okay, so now, so you see that the life is in the blood, right? Mm-hmm. So it is the life that dominates the nations, people. You see what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So the letters dominate. So what I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to get you to see, in essence, is that the holy presence is definitely present in man.
And it also says if Dalet is the door, that the holy presence, that the word Adam is the doorway for the essence of the holy presence.
To dominate the earth.
Into the spiritual, into the physical realm of peoples, nations, mankind, and stuff like that.
You know what? You're right, and because the word earth began with Aleph also. So what's happening is this. The the Holy Presence has opportunity to dominate the entire physical world. But the way it does it is through man. And that is in conjunction with, and Bob, I didn't even see that, but that is in conjunction with the command to subdue the earth, dominate the earth. You see, the earth consciousness. Therefore, we have no excuse for not being Elohim. And I'm not saying being that's not no, being Elohim. We have no excuse for that. What we have done, we have disavowed the dominance of the olive, the Holy Presence. And when I say we have disavowed the dominance of it, this is what I'm talking about. I don't mean we've necessarily disavowed the Holy Presence by saying it doesn't exist. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm gonna get something. I'm not saying that at all. Didn't bring it up. What I am saying though, we have disavowed it by not allowing our thoughts, actions, and speech to be dominated by it. We have chosen what we would think, what we would speak, what we would do. We've chosen that. Now, this is the way it happened. The Holy One made it possible for us to be able to speak, right? In order to be able to speak, there has to be words to speak. Wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. So, if there are, there's probably somebody trying to get on this, but if there are words to speak, right, then they have to come from a source. And the source of the speech or the words is indeed the Holy One, from which everything comes. Now, what happened is, he did not, or it did not give us sentences. It gave us words. And we are the ones who permutate the letters to make words. Permutation is simply moving something around.
Welcome to AccuCom.
And
please enter your
when I
conference
say
code
moving
now.
something around, this is what I'm talking about. In English,
At the
if you
tone,
look at
please
Leo,
speak your
right?
full name.
If you
Foundation.
If you permutate the letters, then you get evil.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Or if you drop a letter, you can get lie.
You will now be joined to your conference.
So permutation of the letters is moving them around. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So what he had done, he allowed us to permutate the letters and then make the thought, the words and then the thoughts. Now, this is one of the things that we have done with this Holy Presence. We have not realized it, but we have been creating all along. We created a language, languages. We created languages. We created environment. We created the circumstances that we live in. So we have been creating all along. What we call manufacturing, such as a chair or this music stand, what we call manufacturing is actually created. Because it had to be an image before it could be created. Put your phone on mute.
Excuse me, anyone online, could you please put your phone on mute?
So when we talk about creating, right, we are actually talking about
Hello? I was trying to call back.
okay. what I'm saying is, it's create everything that's created has to be created in the image of something. Everything. That chair was created in the image that was in somebody's mind. So we are created using the same principles that has always been used to create. And the atom is still naming everything that's created, giving this its character. Chair, music stand or desk, board. The atom is still doing that. Now, if we can understand that the olive should always dominate, then this is what will happen. If the Holy Presence is allowed to dominate the atom, right? The atom begins to come to the awareness that it is actually Elohim. And not only that, but everything that the atom comes in contact with, everything that the atom prevails over, is dominated by the olive. Because the atom is. You got it?
Yeah.
But if we drop the olive and allow the dalit mem, the blood of the physicality to dominate, then we only see through physical eyes. And we only prevail in a physical manner. And we are confused to a great degree about those things that happen to us that are not that are not physical. Example, if I cut my arm, I immediately try to find some physical way of relief. Mm-hmm. But if my heart is broken, I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
You see?
Yes.
So, but if we become aware of who we really are, not what's in us, because the Elohim is not in me. The Elohim is not in you. You are Elohim. The scripture did not say Elohim is in you. It said, I say that you are Elohim.
Right.
Got it?
Yes.
So when I began to realize that I am Elohim, when I began to realize that, then not only am I able to deal with the cut on my own, but more importantly, I'm able to handle the broken heart. I can deal with that as well. And by virtue of me being able to handle the broken heart, the cut on my arm and the broken heart, it tells me something. It tells me that I have become aware of, for lack of a better term, well, let me put it this way, the spiritual medicine for dealing with a spiritual brokenness. Because if a cut on your arm is a physical brokenness, mm-hmm. isn't it?
Yeah.
And the way you deal with a physical brokenness is by neosporin, depending on how bad the cut is, or stitches, etc. But all of it is physical. Mm-hmm. And the deepest wound, the reason a broken heart is more painful than a physical wound is because we don't want to deal with it. And the pain lasts longer. It would be no different. For example, when we were in Africa, this little boy came home from school, and one of his friends had bitten him. And I took some tracing and put it on his face and covered it. I cleansed it first with peroxide, and then I put the ointment on and covered it. And in a few days, it was healed. And someone came to me teary-eyed and said, if you had not been here, he would have probably died. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? But what they were saying to me, he would have died from the infection. You see?
Yeah.
It's so simple. Now, if you take that bite in his face and you see the stress of the parents, because they know what that spells, right? Now, their pain, looking at that physical thing, was just as deep as a heartbreak. But it was made easier because someone was there who knew how to handle it. Got it?
Yeah.
Now, to them, I became a savior. And after that, whenever somebody got hurt or what was going on with them, they made a beeline to that house. Is the pastor in? You know, so all of a sudden I became
A shaman, a medicine man.
But it was doing simple things that we do every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when we realize we are Elohim, then whether it be heartbreak or depression, no matter what it is, then it becomes a daily routine for us to deal with it. Now, it doesn't mean that the one who is broken is able to deal with it. It would take someone else to deal with it probably. It would be no different than my being there in Africa saved that little boy's life probably, and your being in the presence of someone who's going through a deep state of depression and don't know how to deal with it because they don't know who they are. You become the ointment. You become the healing.
I'm seeing a connection, as you say all these things, with the physical. Well, first of all, with the heart. The heart is, if you just want to look at it in terms of degree, it's much more of what that person actually is than just the physical aspect of them, of their true being. And if you notice with the physical thing, let's say if the boy was smart enough and he had the ointment and things like that, he could pretty much heal himself had he known the correct thing to do. However, if you notice on the situation with the heart, a lot of times it takes another person there to help or walk that person through that situation as far as healing them is concerned.
Now say that again about the heart. I'm going to show you something.
Which part?
The first part. The heart.
The heart is much more indicative of what that person actually is, the true sense of that person compared to the physical portion of them. And then the part with them not being able to be able to heal their heart as easily is only because they do not have that true awareness of who they actually are.
Now, heart is Lamed Bet. Lamed is the last letter in the Pentateuch, the Torah, and Bet is the first letter. Lamed Bet spells heart. In between that is the word of the Creator, the word of the Creator, right? So when your heart is supposed to be filled with that, in between the Lamed and the Bet, it's supposed to be a spiritual understanding, awareness, acceptance, desire, that kind of thing. Are you with me?
So the heart, then, if that's the case, then the heart. Let me read something to you first.
Sure.
I've been reading some of the Gospels that are not some of the
Right.
lost scriptures, and there's one in here that talks about how we don't. It talks about the names. And this is Gospel of Philip. The names which are given to the worldly things contain a great occasion for error, for they twist our consideration from the right meaning to the wrong meaning, which is what you're saying, permutating the letters wrong. For whoever hears the word, quote unquote, God, does not know the right meaning but the wrong meaning. It is the same way with such words as quote unquote our Father and quote unquote the Son and quote unquote the Holy Spirit and quote unquote the life and quote unquote the light and the resurrection of the church. Folk do not know the right meaning. Rather, they know the wrong meaning unless they have come to know the right meaning. They are in the world. And in the aeon, which is the spiritual, they would never be used as names in the world, nor would they list them under worldly things. They have an in, meaning their root is otherworldly. And so, I mean, we box it in with whatever containers of words we try to use, and its essence cannot really be captured, is what it's saying.
In words.
So, now, I was coming back. What was that? What were you talking about? What was that comment? I was going to make a comment.
Lamette Beth.
Oh, heart.
Yeah.
And so, if that's so, what you just said, then the heart is the essence of the totality of spirituality, because those letters are the beginning letter and the ending letter, and all the others are contained within the between those two.
Right.
So what you're saying is right. Until we know truly our heart, which is our true essence, we are unenlightened. We just don't know.
And when you look at teaching or training, Lamed Aleph, Lamed Bet. So Lamed talks about the letter for teaching or to study, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Lamed Aleph, Lamed Bet is teaching or training, then teaching dominates the Aleph dominates the teaching, dominates the container. You see? So the training is all about spiritual training. The teaching is all about spiritual teaching. The understanding is all about spiritual understanding. And something is trying to push its way through to my memory concerning the wisdom. The wisdom. Oh, I know what it is. When you look at the Father, right, in relationship to the teaching, that's Father, Aleph Bet. What happens is the Aleph represents wisdom. The Bet represents understanding. So it takes the wisdom and understanding being dispensed to or being given to those who have a desire to know who they are. That's what makes you a spiritual father. And if you don't do the right thing with it, then you end up with, I think it's Lamed Aleph, which is anger. So what I'm saying is that up here at the training, if you learn only just for the sake of it, Aleph Lamed is it. One of them is Aleph Lamed Aleph being anger. My point is this: if you don't do, to whom much is given, much is required. And if you don't do what is required of you when you should do it and the way you should do it, then you end up with a spiritual anger. And the anger, when I start talking about being angry, I'm not talking about necessarily viciously, but if you don't teach the right thing, the church is always angry about something. Carpet, pastor salary, budget, position. There's always something going on that creates an environment, creates an atmosphere of tension.
Okay.
And if you allow the olive to dominate and you do the right thing with what you've been given, then what happens is the recipients become knowledgeable. And once they become knowledgeable, then they begin to have a greater desire of understanding what they become knowledgeable of. Now they start looking themselves and they find wisdom, and through that wisdom they get understanding, and with the understanding they'll teach it somebody else. Am I making sense?
Yes.
So the depth of what we do, or must do rather, the depth of what we must do transcends a morning worship. that in itself is a misnomer. When Bible was talking about how we twist words, look at what we call worship. When the root of worship is to surrender.
And that's a lifestyle.
Yes.
It's not
a morning worship.
A moment in the morning service.
Right. It is not, and it's not a period when we say the Spirit is shown of Him, that kind of thing. It's not that. It's far beyond that. And a lifestyle of surrender. So how do you live a surrendered life?
Goes back to just talking about that death that talks about being saved, that talks about I as an individual no longer existing, and instead you realizing that you are all. It's death to the individual I self.
Okay. If it is death to the individual I self. Now, look at what you're saying. Without knowing who you are, you only are existing.
Mm-hmm.
And until you die, you can't live. And the death is to the way that we have presented everything to be as opposed to the way it really is. When we talk about dying to self, we're talking about dying to our self-appointed means of relating to what we call a deity, as opposed to relating to the deity in the manner that we have been instructed to. And the reason we don't know, we relate the way we are related is because we've not been taught how. So, I'm sorry, I spelled to teach wrong. It should be Lamed Mem Dalet. That's what it is. I forget what that word is. I know that's a word.
Lamed Mem Dalet.
Yeah. It should be. Yeah, it should. That's what it should be. That is, it means to teach, okay? Now, when you look at the way you spell olive, we talked about this last week, didn't we? Olive, lamed, pay. Remember that? Mm-hmm. The olive teaches the mouth. Mm-hmm. Olive, lamed, pay. Lamed talks to olive, Holy President. Lamed is teaches, and pay is the letter for mouth. So we are supposed to allow the Holy Presence to give us direction as to how we are to bring everything into fruition. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now,
spell again, please.
Olive, spell olive?
Yeah.
It's olive, lamed, pay.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It is the final form of pay because it comes at the end. And pay is, the way you spell pay is pay, hey. And that's not the final form. What did I do? Pay is something like this. That's the letter. But the final form, please don't put it on there. It's something like that. So the final form is totally different than and I'm just doing this for Barbara's sake, so she can see the difference.
I got it.
TMI.
Yeah. So, and
I want to answer the question that you asked. It's the same as what Shota said, but I want to say it a different way.
Okay.
We live spiritually by not letting matter rule over us, because that's another another way that it's said, not letting a physical rule. In other words, matter is physical stuff.
Okay. The word I had at first was training, right? Okay. Okay, that was right. Training. Okay.
And I guess what I'm getting to is I've been reading some of these, and they always preface it with, these things are very difficult to understand. But then when I put it in the context of what we've been talking about, it's just getting clearer and clearer. It's not as it's difficult if you come at it from the worldly.
The reason why I think that is, as I'm thinking about it, the reason why I think that is, what they're actually saying in that, and to actually understand what we're talking about, it cannot come from just reading it alone. You have to apply that to your actual experiences.
And I guess that's what we're saying. And the only way we've been having these experiences is because we've been getting the teaching in order to
because everyone has these experiences. It's just that I don't think the church teaches you to pay any attention whatsoever to these experiences. So even like I notice when I speak with people, and it always comes up, a little peculiar. Where do you go to church at, or do you follow a certain religion or anything like that? And then I kind of like, oh boy, this is about to be a long search. But no matter how religious they are, depending on how I put it, it's like, oh, okay.
It's truth is simplicity. It's not caught up in the words that we materially weave around it. It's pristine. It stands on its own. It's
almost like people have been taught to ignore this or to not see it. Their eye has been clouded.
Olive Mem Tov, truth. Mem Tov, dead. Take the olive.
Without the olive, you're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah.
And what I have learned to do through much anguish is when I enter a conversation about what I believe, I've begun telling people, when they say, well, what do you believe? I tell them, I'm a Christian. And if they press me, I let them know I am a pre-Constantine Christian. So what does that mean? Now it's on.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just not the 66.
Right. It's like, what do you want to understand? What is your real question? And when they ask me a question, I answer it based upon what's really in the book as opposed to what we say is there.
Mm-hmm.
And they and to a man, they'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. As opposed to, that's crazy. Because when you look at it, what has happened, we have diminished the power of it. Earlier, when we were talking about the dominance of the olive, right? If we can ever get that down pat, not only are you able rather to heal the emotional pain, but you could also heal the physical pain. And the best way to heal physical pain is never have it. That's the best way to do it. Now, you say, well, how do you manage that? And I say, well, the scripture says that the word was sent for the healing of all flesh. Did it not?
No.
And if it's between the lamed and the bet, the heart, right? If the whole word of God is between that, then if you have a desire to not so much to understand, but to be the essence of that, then before it even enters your mind in terms of thought, it's already dealt with. Whoever it is, it's already dealt with. Whatever you perceive in your heart, that's what you are. As a man thinketh in his heart, isn't that what is that? And thinking is not about pondering as much as it is about fencing, putting a fence around it. You know, it's about capturing and holding on to.
It's about being.
Yeah.
It's about.
Yeah, because if you point to it, I guess, if you hold on to it, you're going to become it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the desire, then that desire begins to grow, not only itself in terms of desire, but it also began to grow exponentially the understanding of the wisdom that is in that word. So when Barbara picks up the book and began to read it, and all of a sudden it brings about a greater clarity than the writers of the book would ever anticipate, by virtue of them, prefacing it by saying, this is difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you understand it? It's not so much because you are smarter than anybody, but it's because of the desire that you have, not to understand it just for the knowledge of it, but to understand it so that you can feed someone else with it.
Okay, for what you were just explaining, tie that in or break down for me, because this is the scripture that came to me yesterday, and again this morning while I was out in the yard. An idle mind is the devil's workshop, and not devil in the terms of what we were taught, but coming up, but the fullness of what we understand we've gotten that foundation. Tie that in with what you just said.
Okay. The idle mind is the devil's workshop. That is a true statement. The Satan is simply, it is confusion. The idea of devil is confusion. Mm-hmm. And if you are confused, then confusion feeds on confusion. So if your mind is idle and not desiring to ponder the spiritual things, or to know who you really are in terms of Elohim, then the negative or the confusion continues to feed on itself, and it grows. And the result of it is that your thoughts are tainted, and your actions are tainted, your speech is tainted. We say that somebody is a psychopath if they can do things without feelings. Like kill folk, cut people, that kind of thing. And the reason that happens is because the olive has been totally suppressed, meaning the holy presence has been totally suppressed. And when the holy presence is totally suppressed, olive, what does that tell you that olive spell? How you spell it? Olive.
What is
Olive lamed pay, right? When the olive is suppressed, you get lamed pay, and lamed pay spells anger.
Okay.
So when the holy presence is suppressed, all you have left is anger. And now think about it this way: if you have your mind, quote unquote, stayed on Jesus, if you're thinking about the positive, if you're thinking about the holiness, then you don't move into those areas that we call evil or confusion, because your focus is not there. You remember me saying, if there is someone you don't want to be like, don't talk about, I'm not going to be like so and so.
Mm-hmm.
Just be who you are, because if you say you're not going to be like them, then you're focusing on them, and that's what you become, whatever you focus on. So if you allow that confusion or that negative energy or those demeaning thoughts to stay where they are, then it does become a workshop, because it begins to grow. That's what they're talking about.
Then what does a workshop do? I mean, you create even in the workshop, and you entertain lots of different kinds of thoughts, and you go through these scenarios of what ifs based on all of those things that are coming. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if this happened? And you go from one series of confused thinking to another. I
can relate to that a lot. I know someone who goes over all these what if scenarios, and so they actually put themselves through astronomical amount of torment
Yeah.
based on possible things that could go wrong. And so I'm like, look, I'm not about to sit up here and go through all this stuff with you as far as this state of being over stuff that hasn't even happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are worst case scenarios. No.
But we taught that. You know, we learned that. Because how did we learn that? When things are going quite well, we wait for the other shoe to drop. So we are taught to question, you know, so, and then the other thing we're taught is, so what if this doesn't work out?
Yeah.
So what you going to do next?
Plan B.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I knew somebody who worked for Jerry Richardson, and when he would go into his meetings, he would give a plan. And they said, what's plan B? He said, there's no plan B. That plan B don't work. Now, if you recognize that you are Elohim, you don't plan. You just be. You say, but I'm going to the grocery store. Okay, but you're not at the grocery store till you get there. So you make a list. You say, well, I'm planning on what I'm going to buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you make that list, but that list doesn't hold you. Because you may go in there and get more on it or less. You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So what you're actually doing, you are creating an environment for you to get something to sustain the body. So rather than seeing it as a plan, just in case it doesn't work, see it as an opportunity to create an environment that is more conducive to you recognizing that you are Elohim, as opposed to planning on what we're going to do tomorrow so that we can sustain this life. Because I'm going to tell you something. It does not matter what you plan for tomorrow. You may wake up in the morning and can't get out of the bed. How many times have you planned to get up and go to work and woke up and felt like you couldn't crawl out of bed and didn't go?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what a man plans, the final the final decision about that plan is up to Elohim. Now hear what I said. Matters not what a man plans, the final decision about that plan is up to Elohim. Why? Because you're not aware of it, but you already know what the outcome is. And if you know what the outcome ain't no plan. If you Elohim, you know what the outcome, but we're so in such deep sleep. Elohim is so deeply buried, or we have suppressed him or drowned, attempted to drown Elohim in the blood, in the physicality. And how do we drown him? How do we keep him away from us? How do we keep away from us the mirror that let us know who we are? We shout, we sing, we run up and down the aisles, we do all of these Bible readings, and we repeat these Bible verses, and we leave them to the side, not realizing that the very letters that came together to form this word that is printed, not the English, of course, but the very letters of the holy language that came together to form these thoughts, that's what we were made out of. That's who we really are. So when we talk about the olive being in the blood, if you increase, and I'm doing this in physical language so you can understand. If you increase the olive in the blood, you become so aware of who you are until you can end up like Enoch. That's what happened to him. when we talk about the olive being in the blood, that is, what they call that? Allegory? Because it's not talking about necessarily, blood represents man, the physical man. You know that? That's what it's talking about. When the Bible talks about Abel's blood crying out from the ground, it's talking about Abel's crying out from consciousness, from the earth consciousness. It is talking about the suppressed olive. That's what it's talking about. Can you see that now? That's what it's talking about. It's crying out from the ground. Because when you really look at it, I'm going to throw something at you now. When you really look at it, I hope I won't confuse you. Everything in the scripture alludes to heaven and earth, God and man, light and darkness, enlightenment, confusion. Can you see that? Okay, watch this. Suppose for a moment that this is Eden, right? Now, it says, out of Eden flowed 4 rivers, wasn't it? And I don't believe that they flowed in the same direction, by the way. I believe that the 4 rivers also represent the 4 directions.
North, south, east, and west.
Yes. And it's actually 5 directions. North, south, east, west, and the center.
Okay.
That's
and,
what
and the what?
the center. I do believe that.
Okay.
Now, if these rivers are flowing out of Eden, right? Whatever each one of these rivers represent, Havila, etc., of one the mindset or the personality, right? And where is it flowing to? It flows out of Eden to water the ground, isn't it? Suppose that the ground is no different than the man. So enlightenment is flowing to the man, and what he chooses to do with it determines whether he becomes olive. No, what's that? Olive, the left. Whether he becomes the Adam, right? What he does with it. If the enlightenment flows, and he chooses to deal with it the way he wants to, if he chooses to permutate the words or the letters and make it be what he wanted to mean, then he suppresses the olive.
Which is death.
Right. He suppresses the olive and he becomes the physical man, right?
Okay, I thought you said the olive is not there,
No,
then.
there's olive, mem.
Okay.
Olive, mem, what? Let me see, I got it written or something. I mean, it's in this book somewhere. Olive, mem, pay. That spells olive. Wait, this olive spells the word olive, the letter olive.
Okay.
And mem, pay spells dead.
Okay.
Okay. Got it?
I got it now.
Okay. I think that's where it is.
So again, you were saying that the olive is
No,
suppressed.
I'm wrong again. I'm wrong. Olive is truth. I keep getting confused. It's not olive is truth. Is olive
It's okay, Pastor.
mem tav. That's truth.
Okay.
Suppress the olive and that's dead.
Gotcha.
Mem tav.
Okay. Mem tav. Okay.
Now this is what you got to understand about olive mem tav. Why does it spell truth? Because olive is the first letter, mem is the center letter, and tav is the last. It encapsulates everything that is. So truth is the verbal essence of everything that is. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I got that.
Because what it's actually saying, truth is from olive to mem and from mem to tav. The Alpha and Omega, the olive and tav. Got it?
Yeah.
So when you suppress the olive in Adam, it becomes a physical man.
Okay.
And once the way he became a physical man was by suppressing the olive, right?
Uh-huh.
At the same time that this olive is suppressed, it has to be suppressed in truth. Because if he was not suppressed in truth, he never would have become a physical man.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
So when he's suppressed in the truth, he becomes dead. If you eat from this tree, thou shalt
Which
surely
is the essence of what we've been talking about.
die. Yeah.
We're walking dead until we come to that awareness of who we are.
And right now, once that happens, he said, you shall surely die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a mere existence. And then, let's look at it again. When the man was made in chapter 2, and he breathed the breath of life into him, right? And he became a living soul. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a Bible.
Mine, yeah.
A what?
My Bible, I left. Oh, here it is.
Okay. He became a living soul, right?
Yes.
Now, look at this. He was there before he started living. So he was in existence
Right.
before the breath, right? You see what I'm talking about? And so the breath is what made him a living soul. So what happened? He existed. Now, when he became a living soul, he suppressed truth. He suppressed the olive, and that's what brought about the death, right?
Yeah.
Now he got to die again. In other words, he had to die to himself. He had to die to all his aspirations, to all the stuff that he's created. He got to die. In other words, this cannot be more important to me than Elohim.
Is that the second death that the Bible
Yes.
talks about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can live.
Okay.
The Elohim, I am Elohim, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have gotten so caught up in believing that this dead thing is truth until I have gotten what I call life from this dead thing.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you eat, that's what you become.
Yes.
So I have been eating a dead word.
Mm.
You got that?
Yes.
I have been eating a word that has absolutely no nutritional value at all.
And that's why I'm still continually starving. And every week I have to go back to get some more of this dead word because I've not gotten anything to sustain me. I just think I had something.
That's it. That's the perspective we've been looking for, Shell.
Yeah. And then eating is a yin, delet, noon. And when you're talking about the 4 rivers, a yin means center. So that's the center one you're talking about. And the 4 rivers do go in different directions. On the physical sense is north, south, east, and west. And then on the metaphysical is 4 worlds: emanation, creation, formation, and action.
Right. Okay. Now, look for sin. You said, let me say, you said olive.
A yin.
Oh, a yin.
Yeah, for eating
Okay.
is a yin.
A-Y-I-N.
Then delet
Delet.
and noon.
And that's
N-U-N.
center.
Yeah.
Yeah, a yin is the center. Delet is talking about the 4 directions, and then noon is everlasting faithfulness and emergence of the
And
soul.
what does that spell?
That's
Yin.
eating.
That's eating.
It's
But
eating.
I think sin is noon, delet, ayin.
It is
I think
okay
so, I'm not
because
sure. Look at
because
the
noon has 2 meanings. Then, because noon can be taken to mean gaffing hook for fishing and to waste away.
Right. It depends on the context of it.
Yes,
So what I guess.
but sin is the
let's
opposite.
follow that now. If ayin is center, dalet is doorway, noon is 2 things. It's what?
For noon, it is hold on one
Hook,
second.
and then it's
Gaffing hook, which also means to waste away,
and then
or it can mean everlasting faithfulness and the emergence of the soul.
okay. So then, without being centered in
Yeah, a
in
yin
the
is
awareness, then the doorway that's open for the doorway that's available to us is that starvation, that hook, that
yes, good.
lack of spiritual nourishment.
Yes, and to help you out, let me give you some more. A yin means eye, wellspring, source, or center.
Source.
And therefore, the
Wellspring.
symbol of perception and insight of the physical eye and of the spiritual eye.
Okay. Yeah.
So it depends on the yin, your perception, and how you're looking at it, which eyes you're looking at it through.
Mm-hmm.
So let's back up a little bit to where Barbara was, when she was talking about, so you don't eat right, you don't get the right nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, when you don't get the right nourishment, your mind is not clear. If your body is not nourished, your mind is not clear. When you get hungry, your thoughts drift. It's hard to focus.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the truth, the olive is being suppressed in truth, and we walk in dead, and there's no nutrition in this word that we have been eating all of these years, that is why we drift in and out. You see people leave and come back, and leave and come back. It's like if you're hungry, you can get a honey bun and kill your appetite for a while.
Right.
But it's not nutrition.
True.
But you got to come back. But if you got nutritional food, you can go a greater time before it's time to eat again. So what I'm saying is this. We have been eating from the tree. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the tree where the olive is suppressed. He said, listen to what he said. When that man and that woman ate from that tree, what did he say? They have become just as we are. Who's the we? The olive and the Yahweh. Is that not what he said?
Mm-hmm.
But if the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you just said is
Suppressing the olive.
okay. My question is this: if it's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then it's not the tree that's really suppression of the olive. It's what we do with. It's we who either suppress the evil or suppress the good.
Right.
Do we not?
Okay, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you made something click inside of me too. When you're right. When you said that, this is what clicked. For the man has come, for the Adam has become just as we are.
Right.
For I create light and darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I make good and evil. Is that not what he said?
Mm-hmm.
So what is he saying? If the man has become just like we are, now he has the ability to create good and light and darkness, good and evil. You see what we're talking about? He has the right, he has the ability to do that. So, what we need to do is lock up the gun cabinet, because the kid is not mature enough to know how dangerous it is. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So what we must do is put a flaming sword in the gateway to the tree of life, lest he eat from it. You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
He's not mature enough
Okay.
to know how to handle this. So we must protect him from himself.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Yes.
So he began, rather than search for enlightenment, he did exactly what we do now. He make it up as he go along.
Yeah.
You see?
Religion.
So what is that? Religion.
Yes.
So what is that? That's unrightness, that's confusion.
Correct.
And the confusion does what? Suppresses the olive.
Mm-hmm.
And when the olive is suppressed, then you become physical. That's the blood. The life is in the blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're more attached to the physical than you are to the spiritual. And the reason is because The spiritual is your baby. You created it.
And it's like
I'm sorry, the physical is your baby. You created it.
And it's like Philip said. Anyways, quoted in that. It is like this in the world. People create gods, and they worship those whom they have created, or that which they created. It would be proper if the gods worship the people, meaning those things that we created. If we are the creator, it ought to be worship. It comes to us when we need to have it. I mean, that's
Things need you.
yeah,
You don't need things. They will find you
right.
so they can survive. They will surrender to you because that's the only way they can survive. But if you are running after them, you have elevated them above you.
We're the ones who got it wrong.
Yes. So the physical, I got you. So the physical that we created is the thing that we hold on to. Now I'm going to show you how real this is. We create a body in a womb, but it is the Creator who gives the life. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
When death occurs, what we call biological death occurs, we take the body and we deposit the body in what we said we are made from. And the Creator takes the breath, the spirit, the life.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
We get back what we got.
Yeah, we get back what he had. And the reason it's separated like that is because we have lost sight of the reality that we are one. We are one. And I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. Go ahead.
I want to go back. Well, let me ask that later, and you go ahead and do your illustration.
No. I'm going in a different direction. I'm going to show you how we
Well, it's because
you're someplace else.
it's because you made the statement that
Are you coming from this?
yes.
Okay.
No. Well, when Adam and Eve fell, and when they ate of the tree of good and evil,
The
knowledge of good and evil.
Uh-huh.
When they ate that, once they ate it, and God says that what he said, something about
Let us place a flaming sword at the entranceway. Or for they have come
as we are.
Yeah, they have become as we are.
What were they before that? What was
But before they became as they were, only thing they knew was life, purity, enlightenment. That's all they knew.
That's all they knew.
That's all they knew.
So if Elohim and Yahweh is light, why weren't they that? Why they had to die? I don't know how to put it.
Okay, let me see if I can help you. Okay,
Okay.
here is Ein Sof, right? And from Ein Sof comes Yahweh, right? And from Yahweh comes Elohim, right?
Okay.
And from Elohim comes the Adam, right?
Okay.
Now, this is the little baby. If you can visualize the infant. When the infant grows up, that's who it's going to realize it is.
Right.
But if the infant grows up with wolves, the infant thinks he's a wolf.
Okay.
How does the infant grow up as a wolf? There is absolutely nothing that exists that's not from Ein Sof.
Okay.
Okay?
This isn't everything.
Ein Sof is everything.
Okay.
And the space that was contracted to create Yahweh, to bring this everything is into being, consisted of light. And in order for free will to happen, right, it had to also consist of darkness.
Okay.
Now I don't mean like darkness like this light in here.
Right.
Okay? Now, and the same thing is in Elohim, right? And the same thing is in this man, right? Adam, but he doesn't realize it.
Okay.
Once he realizes it, even from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that brings him to a realization of who he is,
Okay.
what he can do.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
And rather than, and right away, Elohim and Yahweh know something. He did this in terms of eating from this, bringing about this awareness. He did this knowing what we told him not to do.
Okay.
that was exercising free will, right?
Okay.
Once he exercised that free will, now he's just like one of us. Here you got light. He's aware of the light and darkness. So what he decided to do was to go after the darkness.
Okay.
Why? The darkness doesn't mean he pulled the light chain and the light went out. The darkness means that he began to shape the light the way he wanted to shape it. Confusion is nothing but reshaping the light
Yes.
in our image and likeness. When we go to that place and get all of this non-nutritional food, it is misshaping light. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what's happening.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay. I got it now.
Okay. Now, let me show you how we are one. The oneness of it all is found, I think I did this last week, I'm not sure, or week before last. If I did, pretend I did. I'm just doing it for Bob if I did.
Thank you.
If I didn't do it, I'm doing it for everybody.
I think you are doing it very
How about that? Okay. Now, this is and this is okay. Let me show you what I'm saying. The numerical value for you is 10. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
The numerical value for hay is 5. The numerical value for Vav is 6. The numerical value for hay is 5, right? That's a total of 26.
Right.
The olive is made up of a valve, a slanted valve, and 2 U's, one at the top and one at the bottom. You know what the olive look like?
Mm-hmm.
Something like, you know.
Yeah, it's like an
Okay.
end, but-
Yeah. Okay. So U is 10. The slanted valve is 6. That's 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's what?
26.
This is. So hidden in the Gematria is the unicity or the oneness of Elohim and Yahweh. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's hidden in the Gematria. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we look at it,
and
this
mankind, I think, has 20. Woman has 23 chromosomes, and the man has 23. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and that's 26. I think there are 23 chromosomes in each one.
okay,
In each
46.
Then that was right.
46.
Right there, I was going somewhere else.
But it is. I read something
There's-
that shows how
64.
the chromosome, the number of chromosomes in the man and the woman, how it does indeed. The Gematria of it is real. I just have to find it again.
Yeah, I
But
scratch all that.
but it's real.
I read that too.
If you look at the woman is Aleph Mem, and the man is Aleph Bet. And I'm trying to, let me see if it's in here. I had it in one, I wrote it in the margin someplace, where it talks about how the father and the mother, where is it? How it takes 3 partners. Oh, okay, that's what it is. I'm gonna show you something else. You got this? You understand this? The oneness, right? Now I'm gonna show you how in the letters it shows how a man and a woman produces the physical, right? This is Aleph, Het, that's father, right? Aleph, Mem, that's mother. And Aleph, the Lat, Mem, that's blood, right? Now, let me see what the numbers are. Okay. Okay, this is 1 and 2, right? That's 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is 1 and 40, right? That's 41, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's equal what? 44?
Yep.
And this is 4, and this is 40. And that equals what? 44. That's mother, that's father, that's mother. This is blood. That's the offspring. Without Aleph, it's a physical offspring. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So the idea of physicality from the male and the female is also hidden in the Gematria. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to make is this, or one of many. If you don't have a desire to understand the structure and the nuances of the language that is written in, you will not have an understanding of who you are. Now, there are those who will tell you, well, I don't speak Hebrew. Well, I don't either. Neither does anyone in this room, unless it may be the student. Now, so how do we get to where we are? If you remember, 10, 15 years ago, we were nowhere near this place in terms of understanding, were we?
No.
We were struggling. But it was a desire to know. And because of the desire to know, the desire to understand, not for the sake of knowledge for self, but for the sake of mankind, that has always been the desire. And because of that desire, the footsteps of the righteous has been ordered by Yahweh and guided us to a pathway so we could begin to see the meaning of what's in the book, so we could come to an understanding of what it means to be Elohim. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much where we are. So, there are so many meanings hidden in the Gematria. There are so many understandings hidden in the Gematria. But there are also so many meanings hidden in the letters. By the way a word spells, or by the way the letters are permutated. You can permutate letters and from Eve to disease, from Eden to disease, depending on how the letters are arranged. And we're going to get into that also, because if you learn how to rearrange them, you can begin to deal with sickness and disease. We'll probably get into that in the next couple of weeks. But right now, I want you to see, what I really want you to see is how we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, I'm going to say something that's, wow. Oh, man. I'm on the hot seat today. Huh? Yeah, I forgot about that. It's not even on.
Thank God. Yeah, we got some air.
For balancing that.
You see the amount of ignorance I have to tolerate.
We just sang. Yeah, it's my time to go. You would turn down.
What I want you to understand is how we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
And that we are.
Now, when I'm talking about us being fearfully and wonderfully made, I'm not just talking about these bodies.
Right.
I'm talking about the sequence of events that points to us. Now let me show you something. I wasn't going to get there till Denise got back since she was nice enough to be nice to me instead of like some of you.
No
Okay.
She is us.
Anyway, that's why she's on y'all not me. Now, what I want you to understand is that, do I want to say this?
Just say
Yes.
it, please.
God didn't create us the way we are.
No, we did that.
God didn't create us. And I know what I'm saying is going to put a monkey wrenches and stuff on some folks. We created ourselves the way we are.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you said where we are.
Yeah, I mean physically. The physical bodies, we created them.
Correct.
All the, you know, the scooping up of the dirt and that kind of thing, all of that is metaphorical. All of that is spiritual.
Yeah.
The physical, we did this. And I remember when I was in lab technician class in school. Went to school to be a lab technician, MLT. And one of my classes, it was in pharmacology. And,
That's my favorite subject.
oh, okay.
I didn't follow through with it, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. It was in, they had this film of these people who were indigenous to, I believe it must have been South America, maybe Australia. And when they had headaches, continuously, what they would do, they would take leaves, and first of all, they would cut the scalp, and they would take a rock and scrape the bone on the head until it got real thin, but they never went through to the brain. And then they would put these leaves on it, and it would heal, and they ain't have headaches anymore.
Well, I should hope not.
Now, as crude as that may sound,
Nothing compared to the
as crude as that may sound, but you win. You win. Oh, okay.
Yes.
That accounts for it then. Okay.
No,
That's,
we won our morning match.
that's that energy. that victorious energy.
Somebody's hitting you with a hammer. It feels good when they stop. Yes.
As crude as that may sound, the question that I raised then, now I understand more clearly, was who woke up one morning and decided we're going to scrape your brain, your skull? You know, where did that come from? As crude as that may sound, but it happened. I'll tell you something else that's crude that we found out. That, there are people who have warts on the bottom of their feet.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold your feet to heat, for certain periods of day, like a couple hours or over a period of 2 weeks, they will be gone. And they don't know why.
Consistently?
Yeah. They'll be gone and they don't come back.
What are we doing?
The warts on the bottom of your feet. There are people who have those. So how do you find this stuff out? You know what I'm saying? What makes you try this? That's my point.
Right.
It is because deeply ingrained in us is the knowledge of these bodies that we created.
Correct.
That's why we can do it. Because we created it. The reason we are able to create a computer is because we can create whatever we choose to.
Mm-hmm.
Let us go down to confounded languages.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever the man set his mind to, he can accomplish.
Right.
That, it is not amazing to me. that a computer would fill this house in the beginning. But now, you can put it in your pocket. I mean, when you think about the iPhone 4S, that's an iPad too. When you think about it. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But you can put it in your pocket. So it does not.
And it has more capability than they had to send the man to the moon.
Yes. Exactly. As a matter of fact, a video game has more technology than it took to take it for a man to go to the moon. Just one video game. So my point is, we are able to do these things because we are the ones who created this. And that's why we can take any material that's physical and make anything we want to make. The one thing we cannot make is life. The only thing that we can make are things that are physical. We cannot make life. We have not even gotten to the place where we understand where our life truly comes from. I believe that life does not come from any place. It's already here. Janice.
There's something in the source field investigations that talked about taking a vial of completely sterile water and life would just spontaneously generate. Now I don't remember if they would shine light through it or what they did, but they would find these single-celled organisms where there was nothing before.
Yeah. That also happened when they did the pyramid, remember? Yep. There was absolutely nothing in it. And life sprung forth. So life is in light. Because you remember when they did the light refraction. Life is in light. Light is life. That is one of the reasons it's so interchangeable in the scriptures. Light and life. So we, and that may sound like I'm rambling, but I'm very hesitant about a lot of the things I'm seeing in terms of, what we have done. I suppose that unless we begin to deal openly with what we have done, we'll never find out what we need to do. When we start talking about the planets, the earth itself, God didn't create it. We created this. And we remembered it until we got smart. Think about it. We remembered where every planet was. We remembered how to navigate the stars until we got smart. And when we got really intelligent, we can't even name the 9 planets that we created. The more intelligent that we became within the framework of this that we created, the more we lost of what we actually created, earlier. That's why the Mayans could do what they did in terms of the planets. I saw this recently. One of the Mayan temples, it faces the sunrise. I think it's the sunrise. The sun rises on that temple on the day that the Mayans say all life was created. Guess what day that is? August 12th. Yeah, that's right, my birthday. Isn't that something? And it's, of course, it's recorded history, that on August the 12th, that's where the sun rises, right in front of that temple. Every year, without fail. It's either rise and set, one or two, without fail, and has been doing it ever since the 10th. So how did they know that? How could, we can't build a temple for the sun to rise on in the morning. That's known to be consistent throughout thousands of years. What's your question?
Well, it's just a comment. I thought about what you were saying, how about the life.
Yeah.
It's just confirmation to me that we're in the beginning. where we are in the beginning, but we just the illusion is that we're not there.
Right.
So, but that's
I'll tell you something else, we are too. Everything in the scriptures, whether you're talking about Bet, which is beginning, right? Eden, right? Egypt, Canaan, Jerusalem. Doesn't matter. All of these are wombs. We are constantly going in the womb and coming out. Out of the womb of Bet came everything that is, right? Eden became a womb, place of pleasure. Egypt became a womb. Out of the womb of Egypt came Israel, remember? Canaan became a womb where you redefine who you are. Jerusalem became the womb where you find righteousness. Everything is about the womb. Isn't that amazing?
so. Why are we constantly coming out of the womb?
Because we're constantly being rebirthed.
That's true. That's true. I got you.
And this is the other thing about it. Out of every womb, there is a seed. The Adam is the seed here, right? The olive is the seed here, because the olive is behind the bed.
Right.
The olive is the seed here. Out of Egypt, there's a Moses. See what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's a Joshua. Got it? There's a Jesus. You see, I mean, everywhere there is a seed. And what we have done, we have mistaken them for man. As opposed to seeing the greater picture of it all, we have minimized it by virtue of us seeing it as a physical man, as opposed to the representation of the seed. When we talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we're talking about seeds at different periods, as opposed to individuals. And these seeds represent concepts. And these concepts produce after their own kind. Even when you look at Jacob, when he wrestled, when did the dude that wrestled with the angel?
Yes.
Yeah. When Jacob wrestled with the angel, and what he wrestled with was olive, Elohim. And when he touched his thigh, he became limp. He began to limp, meaning that he lost a part of his earthiness, his physicality. Now, when you look at, when it talks about the descendants that came from his loins, it actually talking about his thoughts. So it changed the way he the way he thought. Now, he changed also his name, didn't he?
Yes.
So what he did, he changed his own perception of himself. And if you read the whole story of Jacob and how he went down, Joseph sent for him to come into Egypt, to come into the womb. If you read that story, when it's talking about those things that allude to the physical, they still relate to him as Jacob. But when those things that allude to the spiritual, they call him Israel.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there was a transition taking place. And what we miss is that the transition can't take place unless it goes to Egypt. In other words, you have to face your confusion before you can walk out in some semblance of enlightenment. The journey does not end in Egypt, neither does it begin in Egypt. It just goes through Egypt. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And when it comes from Egypt, it goes to Canaan because it's a refining that's taking place. Egypt shows you how vulnerable you are. Because in Egypt, you can't protect your own seed. You see? In Egypt, if the olive doesn't protect you, you die. Got it? That's how vulnerable you are. But when you come through to Egypt, now you are at a place where you fight your own battles. You have to protect that seed. So you have discontentment in your life. You have pressures in your life. You have brokenhearted in your life. You have disappointments in your life. You see what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So you have to protect the seed. You cannot allow the seed to be killed because you're depressed. That's why you put on the garment of praise, of recognition of who you are. Remind yourself of who you are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And when you do that, if you can do that in Canaan, then you become Jerusalem, the place of righteousness. Any questions about that? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I'm going to probably look at each one of those words from the Gematria and see what it's talking about. Okay. Any comments? Are we done? Are we done?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Welcome home, Bob.
thank you.
Sir, are there any questions? I certainly hope that I wasn't rambling because the times I feel like it. So,
You did ramble a little bit, but it was necessary.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest. The rest of y'all don't know what to say about
You
it.
just didn't think it
That's
was
necessary.
Yeah, I
Right?
think you
Ego.
were rambling. I needed it apparently.
You didn't want to hurt your fragile ego.
No, but I tell you, I'm about to cry. You see nothing.
No, the rambling, I'm saying it was necessary to get us back. I mean, we had to take those side tracks.
to get where we are.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, that's here where we are.
Right.
And I certainly hope that this resonates. I don't expect you to remember it. I really don't. As a matter of fact, the shocking thing to me would be that you do remember. You're able to regurgitate it. Because I don't. If you don't ask questions, it doesn't come to me. I just can't stand here and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that. Okay, so anyway, the next time, what I want to do is deal with some more things, words and statements that we are familiar with from the Gematria and from the understanding of the letters, so that we will get a clearer view of who Elohim is. Because I guess what I'm trying to do with all of this, my objective is to form a mirror so you can see who you are. I hope and by virtue of seeing who you are, focus on it to the point where you become. You know? I don't want you to think about Elohim in me. I am Elohim. See? There's no difference between I am Elohim and I am an Elohim. I am. There's no coincidence that we use the term I am. I am, you are, he, she, or it is. There's no coincidence that we do that. Okay. We're a long ways from God as a verb, aren't we?
Yes.
All right, I'm done. Telephone people, thank you. Broadcasting.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Broadcasting.
Thank you.